Welcome to Snetterton for the 1987 Willhire 24-hour race. This is the 8th running of Britain's only 24-hour race, and since the first event back in 1980, it's grown from a relay type of race for sports and saloon cars into the pearl of the Uniroyal production saloon car series. This is the 6th round of the 1987 series, and the championship this year has been dominated by the new Ford Sierra RS Cosworth. During this film, we're going to be following the progress of car number 18, the Equati-sponsored car being driven by Jerry Marnie, having his first season of racing in Class A of the championship, and journalist Mark Hales. Another serious driver in this year's race is Vic Lee, here in conversation with fellow competitor Andy Ackley. Vic is driving the VW Golf GTI, which he will be sharing with Jeremy Rossiter, who normally drives a similar 16-valve Golf against Vic, and Gary Isles, who's a regular competitor in the British Formula 3 Championship. Before the race, we spoke to Vic Lee to find out if he's competed in the Willhire 24-hour race before.
No, it's not the first Willhire. I done it last year in somebody else's car, and I've done it the year before in somebody else's car. So it's the third one.
But this is the first time in your own?
First time we've decided to take it all on board ourselves, run it ourselves and find our own drivers, yes.
And how much preparation did you have to put in before the event?
Quite a lot, because obviously, like, what you've got to realise, in 24 hours the car's possibly going to do something like 2,000 miles of hard driving. It's not sprint speeds, but it's not far short of what you were doing in a normal sprint race. So if you can imagine what you do in between races week to week, you can imagine that the car has to be really sort of stripped, all bushes, bearings, checks, things that are liable to let you down. What you've got to remember is obviously a lot of the bends are all right-hand bends. So, you know, you're putting a lot of pressure on all the wheel bearings and joints and that. So it's virtually, we build the car like from scratch again.
While we're watching the pace lap from Jerry Marnie's Sierra Cosworth, let's hear how much preparation has gone into his car.
Well, we put a fair bit of preparation into the race. 2 weeks before the race, on the press day, as you probably know, we rolled the car, which set us back a bit, or rather my co-driver rolled the car. But everything's looking good anyway, so we're quite happy with the way the car's gone together.
The pace car has pulled off, and the cars are coming through Russell for the start of the 1987 Willhire 24-hour race. And the conditions are appalling. It's the first time in the history of the event that it's been wet. Just look at the plumes of spray coming off the cars as they jostle for position going into Riches. Vic Lee, from your position on the 10th row, what were the conditions like out there?
It didn't worry me. It made it more interesting really, because obviously, like, it's a class race, so you've got the Sierra Cosworths that are, you know, they've got a lot of power down the straights. They're normally like gone. So, you know, when you've got a class structure, you've got like up to 2 litre, 2.5 litre, up to 1600. These cars are very quick in the wet because they can, you know, they can keep the power down. They haven't got to be careful how they accelerate. Everything's like for their advantage. So obviously, if it had carried on raining, I think there would have been something like a class, maybe B, C, or D leader, and I think it made the race a lot closer.
Well, the cars are now on their second lap, and they're frantically dicing for positions as if it were a 10-lap race. Although the rain has stopped, the track is still very wet. During practice, the conditions had been even worse, causing the first session to be abandoned, and the second practice session was also delayed by rain. As a result, many of the smaller cars were ahead in the early stages of the race of the bigger, more powerful Sierra Cosworths. Starting from the second row of the grid was the Sierra Cosworth of David Yates, Graham Scarborough and Stuart Graham, being driven in these early stages by Graham Scarborough, and he led the race early on. The Equati Sierra Cosworth in second place. Rob Gravitt, driving with Graham Hathaway and Phil Bullman, started the race from pole position, but then settled down to run the race at a more conservative pace. In a similar car, sponsored by Mobil One, are TV personality Mike Smith and Lionel Abbott. They won the race last year, driving a Ford Escort RS Turbo, which had an absolutely faultless run to the checkered flag, while other teams struck problems. They're hoping for similar good fortune this year. Ford Sierras are something of an unproven quantity, having never yet completed a long-distance race. There are actually 7 Sierras taking part in this year's Willhire 24 Hours. Our camera is in car number 18, being driven by Jerry Marnie, and other Sierra entries are for car number 9, the Tim Harvey, Lawrence Bristow, Chris Childs Istel-sponsored car. Then there's car number 11, the Dave Morgan, Jeremy Walton, Sean Brown and Rod Burley driven TCCS entered car. And finally, car number 24, making his usual appearance at the Willhire 24 Hours, Roger Williams, driving with a plaster cast on his leg and sharing the driving of the Willhire-sponsored Sierra Cosworth with Pete Sugden, Mike Littlewood and Dave Wallace. Also in Class A are 2 Mitsubishi Starion Turbos, one being driven by Colin Blower and Tiff Needell, Tiff who had just returned from Le Mans to take part in his second 24-hour race on successive weekends. The other Mitsubishi being driven by Chris Sanders, Tony Dron and Jonathan Buncombe. Our other camera is in Vic Lee's Golf GTI just in front. Vic is running in Class C for cars up to 2 litres, and in the opening laps, while the circuit is still very damp, the smaller cars are well up due to their better handling, and in many cases ahead of the Class A cars. The leading contenders for the Class C spoils, apart from Vic Lee's Golf GTI of course, is the similar car of number 81. John Morris, Bob Meacham and Barry Williams, which started from the 3rd row of the grid and leads the class at this early stage of the race. And another Golf being driven by Demon Tweaks man Alan Minshaw, driving with John Brindley and Paul Taft. Then there is the Janspeed Peugeot 205 GTI, driven by Jan Ordor's son Keith, along with Paul Chudecki and Alan Kernow. And look out for the Honda Civics of Andy Ackley driving with David Cox in number 96, and car number 69, that's James Kay, Andrew Jeffries and Gordon Bruce. Adding variety to the class is the Honda Prelude 2.0 injection of Dave Horsley, Martin Ray and Des Winks, car number 82. In Class B, Carl Jones, the man who leads the championship, shares with Patrick Watts his Duckham-sponsored Escort RS Turbo. However, he has a very strong entry to contend with. There are the Escorts of Jonathan Collett-Joby, John Llewellyn and Jeff Kimber-Smith, and also the System Printed Circuits entered car for James Wheels and Duncan Kirk. There are 2 BMW M3s entered, number 21 being driven by Bill Nathan, Nick Atkins, Kevin Jones and David Mercer, and sponsored by Hexagon of Highgate, and then the Virgin Atlantic entry, car number 30 for Bob Sands, Steve McHale and Jess Cross. Then we have the 2 Mercedes 190s being driven by Willhire regulars, Roger Eccles, Martin Carroll, John Cooper and John Lepp, and the Autodex sponsored car number 41 of Ricky Fagan and Phil Dowsett. Completing Class B is the Opel Monza, driven by Tony Lanfranchi, John Cleland and Vince Woodman. A very experienced team that one is. The baby class for the up to 1300cc cars is led by Barbara Cowell in her Suzuki Swift, which she's sharing with Peter Baldwin and Phil White. The company, they have Tony Dickinson's Swift Suzuki and 2 little Vauxhall Novas being driven by Neil Crofts and the other one by Sean Andrews. As conditions dried, the Sierras were able to assert their power advantage over the smaller cars, and a terrific battle for the lead developed between Rob Gravitt and Mike Smith. Here, coming through the bomb hole, nose to tail, away, accelerating away, up towards Russell and into Russell, still nose to tail. Mike Smith pressing on as hard as he can to try and get ahead of Rob across the line. Now from the inside of Jerry Marnie's car, we see coming into the S's, left, the track drying out now, encouraging drivers to press on just a little bit, going across to the second apex, turning to the right. Whoops, what's this? Minshaw's spun off. Minshaw reverses out of the way. Jerry Marnie is able to continue happily on his way. Let's have a look at that from the outside. There we see Minshaw revolving round, doesn't hit anything, reverses out of the way of the Sierra as it comes past, and then just waits for a gap in the traffic, and he's able to rejoin. He's lost a few places, but he's still on the track and motoring on. So conditions improving all the time. One has to be careful though, as Alan Minshaw has proved, not to overdo it too much. The rest of the cars really beginning to bunch up now as the conditions do dry out, enabling drivers to improve upon positions maybe that they lost out on when conditions were a little bit wetter, particularly the more powerful Sierras there, the Istel car going through, also Dave Morgan's going through there, the Cosworths having lost out earlier on. Now here's Carl Jones. He's already had a pit stop to have a front wheel replaced after he had a spin and damaged it, hitting a curb. He's now trying to chase up, making up places through the field, having had that stop. There he is coming now into Riches, making up ground now, the championship leader looking for places. Vic Lee has also had problems. He's been into the pits. What were your problems, Vic?
So unfortunately we had trouble with an oil cooler at Union, just tore off the top of the oil cooler, which dumped all its oil everywhere. So unfortunately we had to come in and change the oil cooler.
Was there any damage to the engine?
We hope not. It surged a lot coming through Coram, and it was going down to about 20 pounds. But luckily, just as I came up the pit road, the oil light come on, and there was absolutely no oil in the car when we got here. But it seems all right now. It's holding a constant 75. It's not fluctuating. So fingers crossed. I don't think it done any damage.
And then an early regular pit stop due to tyres?
No, the earlier regular pit stop was the seatbelt come undone. I was going to stay out there, but I couldn't hold myself in the seat, and there was not enough time anywhere to sort of actually do the seatbelt back up, so I thought it'd best if I come in, do it all up, and then it came undone again. So I got the fastest lap with no seatbelts on. What do you want done about this? Take it out, right. There's oil coming out. Yeah, there's leaking out this front near side, you can see it everywhere. All over the bloody place. How long's it been without pressure? It's just fluctuating up and down.
So Vic Lee back into the race, but down to last place. However, out already has gone the Dave Horsley and Des Winks Honda Prelude with major clutch and gearbox problems. Our other driver though, Jerry Marnie, pressing on well. Now the conditions have improved, he's able to catch up on places he lost earlier on. There's Mike Smith, the turbos there flaming out as they come into Riches. The marshals checking everything is in order, and now they're out on the long Revit straight, the fastest part of the circuit. And just look at the acceleration of these Sierra Cosworths. That's Dave Morgan's car, you can see, going even quicker than our helicopter can. And look down there in the background as well at the village of tents that has sprung up in the central area of the Snetterton circuit. A real family occasion, the Willhire 24 hours. Barbecues being set up there, although the weather not quite as good as it might be for that kind of thing. 2.5 hours into the race now, and we've got the first of the scheduled pit stops. It's Rob Gravett into the pits to hand over to Phil Bullman, and the car is moving. It's off back into the race. There's Bullman at the wheel as he heads off back into the race. He's lost the lead, of course. There's another team waiting. There's the Dave Morgan car coming into the pits, and just in behind it is the other Aquati sponsored car. This is Jerry Marnie, who's going to hand over to Mark Hales. Mark Hales already strapping himself into the seat there. The bonnet is up. The mechanics there checking the brake wear, bolting the wheel nuts back on. All four wheel nuts, of course, having to be bolted back into place. The final turn on the spanner. Up on its jacks, there's Jerry just getting out of the car, a little bit hot and bothered. He'll be glad of the rest. The engine can start, the car will be out in just a few seconds now. Up on the jack, coming down off the jack, hydraulic jack, mind your feet gentlemen. Final tighten of the wheel nuts. So Mark Hales ready to rejoin for the Aquati team, number 18, there he goes.
Power-wise, no problem. Left rear is a bit down, but it's not, you know, impossible. Could go 2 sessions, especially if it's wet. I think it'd go probably 2 and a bit.
That was on that sheet. I don't know how long ago that was. Doesn't matter. The thing is, we said we're going to do 23.5, 24. We're doing 23s, 24. That's the time to go around 1 minute 23.
Jerry Marney there talking to his sponsors, the managing director of the party, and there's Mark Hales out on the circuit, going well in the number 18 car. Here we are from inside Mark Hale's car, going past a slower Sierra there, and the rain is coming down again. On with the wipers. This is going to be difficult for Mark because, of course, he's new to the Sierra Cosworth. He's not driven it at all this season, having his first outing through the S's there, and conditions are going to be difficult for him. The rain coming down, going up towards Riches, down a gear, turning in, just clipping the apex there. Whoops, did a little bit of oversteer on there. Mark's able to handle that one well up the short straight towards Sear. Very important, of course, to get a fast line through Sear because the crucial long straight comes after it. Just clipping the apex, let the car drift out, not that far. Oof, managed to get it back eventually there, Mark. And here we go, down the straight, trying to catch up with those cars in front. But the conditions very tricky out there. Here we are from the air, and Vic Lee there in the Golf, the second of the 2 cars down below us. Vic closing on the Honda Civic just in front of him. Getting a bit close there. Oh, and the Honda Civic's lost it. Gone off right in front of Vic Lee and very nearly catching him. But he's almost taken off another one. No, they managed to get by. We'll have to have words with Vic about that a little bit later on. It was Gordon Bruce in the Honda Civic, James Kay's car. He's managed to rejoin without hitting anything. A bit lucky there. We're about 4 hours into the race now, and still we've had no official retirements posted. Even Dave Horsley's Honda Prelude team have decided to rebuild their gearbox, so still 36 cars running, and look at them coming through the S's and down into the bomb hole. They all seem to be out there at once. Through there goes the Rover there, and there's the Istel Sierra Cosworth of Tim Harvey going through as well. This is the sort of time of night when campfires start to be built. People are looking forward to the entertainments of the evening, and so are we.
found he had no brakes at Russell. So he went straight across the top, and the drive shaft finally broke at Sear. He coasted to a stop at Sear. And he got out, kicked it, swore at it, rattled it, did anything he thought he could do, and something just cogged in, and he managed to get back. So we had to do a drive shaft change on the slope down there. We jacked it up once, and then they shouted at us we were in the way of the pace car. So then we had to drop it and bring it forward. Anyhow, that change seems to be quite successful. We had one slight hiccup because they started undoing one side and then realised it was the other, and something worked loose from that initial bit. So we just called him in, tightened it up. We've now got an intermittent third gear. We're going to keep going. That's what it's all about now. I mean, we knew when the oil cooler went that the class win was out of the question, really, although we weren't going to give up. But it did prove to be out of the question, so now we're in for a finish as high as we can.
Did you find night time particularly hard work?
No, it was wasn't too bad. There were some braking points which disappeared down the straight at the end of the straight, which made life hard, particularly when you're coming up behind the slower cars going down the pit straight. It was quite difficult to get the braking points, which I think Stuart Graham did an excellent job. He missed his braking point and went straight on in David Yates's car.
Yeah, not feeling tired? No, not yet. A little bit later on, maybe. It's quite hard work, hot work. I know I get, yeah.
How long were you out on each individual stint at a time?
We did between 2.5 hours and 3 hours each stint. Probably the hardest time for me was early in the morning, I would think, probably.
And do you find that you were perhaps dropping off the wheel, or just hard work?
No, not dropping off at the wheel. I found my left leg was seizing up on the clutch with the amount of gear changes, my knee in particular.
Did you get any sleep at all in the 24 hours, or did you just go straight through?
No, it was. I tried to relax. It wasn't possible to sleep. I probably slept or dozed for about half an hour. That wasn't because I was worried about Mark, who drove the car with me. It was because really you are quite keyed up, and it's not possible to unwind totally. But if you lie down and just close your eyes, it's good enough, you know.
We're not doing too bad. One guy, poor Ray there, has really worked his butt off, which is the politest way I can say it. Really, we've got past the stage of severe fatigue now, and we're just bloody determined it's going to get to the end of the race, quite honestly. The next driver in will be Gary Isles, and we've only changed one set of rear brake pads in the whole race, and that should take us through to the finish. So hopefully, I don't really want to say it, but let's hope the dramas are over. Fingers and anything else crossed, quite honestly.
That's Carol Mason, the team manager of the White House VW team. And what she didn't say is during the night the Volkswagen has been hit by 7 cars, and they also had problems with the lights. So Carol's done a sterling job to keep that car on the road and in the race. It's 6:30 on Sunday morning, and Rob Gravitt and Graham Hathaway and Phil Bullman in the Aquati Sierra Cosworth number 12 lead the race by 3 laps from, in second place, the Mobile 1 Sierra Cosworth of Mike Smith and Lionel Abbott. Just behind, though, on the same lap, is the other Aquati-sponsored car of Jerry Marney and Mark Hales. 4th overall and leading Class B, the Virgin Atlantic-sponsored BMW M3, driven by Bob Stans, Steve McHale and Jess Cross. Leading Class C is John Morris, Bob Meacham and Barry Williams in their VW Golf GTI, just ahead of the Janspeed Peugeot 205 GTI of Keith O'Dore, Paul Chudecki and Alan Kernow. The baby class, Class D, is being led at the moment by the Suzuki Swift of Tony Dickinson and Joe Ward. From Vic Lee's car just ahead, we can see the car which is leading Class C, the Golf GTI of John Morris and Bob Meacham, some 49 laps ahead of our car. That's nigh on 100 miles, and an indication of how quickly problems can delay a car almost completely out of contention. Despite this, we're trying to overtake. There goes Gary Isles, diving up the inside as we go towards the S's, clipping the inside there, the Mercedes just in front of us. Careful not to lose it on the exit, but we're through and ahead then of the class leader, although now only 48 laps behind. Lots of cars had problems during the night, most notably perhaps the Mike Smith and Lionel Abbott car just going through our shot there. Lionel Abbott was driving it during the night when they had a brake failure and went off at Riches. The car lost over half an hour while it was retrieved, taken back to the pits and repairs made. But since then, Mike Smith and Lionel have worked very hard at the race and are now have clawed their way back to a situation where they are just 3 laps behind the leaders. They were more lucky than was Stuart Graham, who also went off there and completely wrote the car off. A key element of any 24-hour race, of course, is the team of mechanics that look after the car. And no team has worked harder, perhaps, than Vic Lee's. We spoke to one of his mechanics and asked Ray about his job in the team.
Yeah, it was mainly the pads, make sure they was right up, so they didn't go down too far to score the disc.
Did they come in at any time and amaze you of how much they've gone down or how little they've gone down?
Well, we was roughly working it out, and it was taken to more or less every driver change in the a pad change, so it worked out pretty well.
But
the best bit was actually getting to the end, you know, achieving a position. Like we started off from nowhere, because we started off with an oil problem, and from there it went to bad, then it gradually got better, and the finishing was the best.
And after all this, will you be back again next year?
Definitely, definitely. I'm a glutton for punishment.
That's Ray there, the mechanic in Vic Lee's team, and everybody we've spoken to this weekend have said that they're going to be coming back next year. A lot of people are saying that the 1987 Willhire is turning into one of the most successful yet. Well, the 1988 one looks as though it's going to be just as successful as well. Here we are coming up in Vic Lee's car, behind that Honda Civic again. That's James Kay's car. Let's hope we get past it without an incident this time. Coming up through on the inside there, it's all over the curbs again, but down along the Revit straight, safely past the Honda Civic this time. Fastest part of the circuit, and looking out for the marker boards on the right hand side of the track to tell us when to go down through the gears onto the brakes. Coming up behind the little Vauxhall Nova here of Neil Croft's. That's in Class D, a long way behind the up to 1300cc category. As far as class positions are concerned, the Vic Lee's car at the moment lying in 6th place in its class, 22nd overall on the race positions. It certainly seems to be running as smoothly now as ever it's done through the race. The driver there just giving us a wave to come through on the inside as we go up towards Russell. Up over the curbs a little bit there. Gary Isles doing the driving at the moment. All the cars still being driven right on the limit. Of course, as the race progresses, the race positions get more and more separated, but still the need to press on, because over the length of the time of the race, you can actually close gaps by solid, hard, quick driving. Here we are down Revit Straight once again, and coming up behind the Janspeed car, the Peugeot 205 of Keith O'Dore, Paul Trudecki and Alan Kernow. That car's currently lying second in its class, so Gary has already driven past the class leading car, the Bob Meacham Volkswagen GTI, and now it looks like we're going to overtake the Janspeed car, the second in class. Try on the inside at Coram, not quite getting through there, not enough room. Up the short straight towards Russell, diving up the inside, looks like we've got him now. Coming up, or is he on the outside of us? Not a lot of room to turn in there. He comes past. So the little Janspeed Peugeot there running very strongly. That's the second in class car. And coming up alongside us now, what's that? That's the Opel Monza. That's the Tony Lanfranchi car. Vince Woodman and John Cleland sharing the driving of that car. Mind you, we've managed to slip past the little Janspeed Peugeot there, sneaking in behind the big Opel Monza. This is a 3-litre car running in Class A, and they've had a lot of problems with gearboxes during the race. Out along the straight, and that car isn't getting away from us as quickly as perhaps Gary Isles is expecting. He's right on the tail, all the way down the long straight. And as they come once again into the S's, onto the brakes, and not losing very much ground at all on the big Opel Monza. What's that? That's the Willhire sponsored Ford Sierra. Roger Williams, Tim Sugden and Mike Littlewood driving that one. Just look at the way that it's able to pull away on the power. As soon as we get onto a straight, the car just leaves the little 1800cc 16-valve Golf behind. Through Cornwall down in towards Russell now. Sun shining in the early morning. It's about 11:30 in the morning now. As we come through Russell and past the pits again, look out for the pit board on the right-hand side being hung out by the team, showing us the lap times. And through Riches, the first corner after the pits. All the cars going through there. There's Gary Isles in the Quantum-sponsored VW Golf GTI. and through Sear once again onto the long Revit straight, and I think we're going to see nothing but a cloud of dust as the Willhire Sierra vanishes off. Yes, there's no going to be catching up with that one, but we're still not that far behind Lanfranchi's Opel Monza there. In fact, I think we're closing on it a little bit. Coming down Revit straight, past the marker boards again, into the S's, turning left, just clip the curve there and then back again to the right, and we're certainly closing on Lanfranchi. He was further ahead of us than that on the last lap. The Willhire Sierra Cosworth there getting held up just in front by, that's the Terry Stone Toyota Corolla just up there. There goes Lanfranchi. He's getting held up by the Toyota there. We're managing to get through on the inside. No, not quite. Diving through Russell there and very close. Maybe we'll be able to get through on the inside up past the pits. Yes, alongside, but no, the big 3 litre of the Opel there, enough to keep ahead of us. Down onto the brakes again for Riches once more. The short straight towards Sear. And there's the pace car out again. The pace car out on the circuit. This could be a good opportunity to dive into the pits. And here we are back in Jerry Marnie's car, the number 18 Aquati Sierra Cosworth, coming out of the pits, back onto the circuit, and the pace car has now come in, so racing can recommence in earnest. The reason the pace car was out, incidentally, was that the Ford Capri, being driven by Chris Millard, the number 27 car, the CAS Motorsport Ford Capri, the only Ford Capri in the race, went off at the exit to Coram before Russell and demolished the tyre barrier, and that took some time to rebuild the tyre barrier, so the pace car came out to slow the cars down while it was out. And here we are in Jerry's car, following the Sierra Cosworth of Mike Smith. That's just in front of us now. Mike Smith currently lying ahead of us in the race in second place, Jerry in third place. However, Mike Smith, driving the Mobile One sponsored car, is a few laps ahead of us, but nevertheless setting a very quick pace there, right onto the curbs on the exit of the bomb hole, really pressing on. Jerry in the wheel tracks, trying to unlap himself and cut the deficit between himself in third and Mike Smith there ahead of us in second place. Coming up to lap some slower cars now. That may give us an opportunity to close that gap, and that Mobile Sierra all over the curbs there. If it's been driven like that for the last 24 hours, it might not last the full distance. Coming up on the inside of a slower car there, Mike's going to get a little bit held up by the car in front of him. We're safely through Riches and up towards this tight, deceptively tight right-hander at Sear, the flames spitting out of Mike Smith's car as the turbo overruns, and then we're out onto the fast back straight. All the slower cars politely moving out of the way to the right-hand side of the track and allowing the Sierras to come through on the inside, and down the gears, onto the brakes, into the S's again, getting past the slower cars, up over the curbs, a little bit of a twitch on the car there. Jerry Marnie delicately balancing the car through the corners though. Very sympathetic driver, the sort of driver that's needed for 24-hour races. Remember, of course, that Jerry Marnie's still in his first season of racing. And Smith just getting away a little bit there, but the traffic not making life easy for either him or Jerry in the camera car here. Out of Russell and up the pit straight once again we go. Into the braking area for Riches, and there is a lot of traffic about this early Sunday morning. I don't think they're all Sunday drivers, they're all pressing on. But not everyone has to work flat out on a Sunday morning. Look at these two relaxing in the sun. And here's Rob Gravitt and Graham Hathaway in the pits. They're taking things easy at the moment. He's certainly had a heavy night.
Right, you're 5 laps up on
and now Mark Hales, how are you doing in the race?
4 laps down on second place, yeah. 5 laps down on the leader.
And 5 laps up on the 4th place?
I think so, yeah. I've only just got here. I've been trying to catch up on some sleep.
So it's a nice comfortable margin to go out and...
Yeah, I mean...
Steady pace.
We're going to see what gives. You know, the front two are really going for it now, so... Who knows?
Let's hope they may fall off and...
Well, no, I don't wish that on anybody.
No, they may burn up.
They may burn up, yeah. And then that may give us a chance, but we may burn up.
All right, we'll see you after the race.
Yeah, sure.
Hope it's a better position.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Tony, you're one of the only men that have competed in every Willhire.
Yeah, that's right. Right, my age, why not?
That's not bad going. You're going to complete in the 25th Willhire?
Of course.
Right.
We hope, anyway.
And we'll be here filming you.
That will be lovely, mate.
And you're still enjoying it?
Yeah, look, it's still going. It's still going round. It's still
not
going
bad for an old bucket.
Are you talking about me in the car?
Well, your word.
That's true, actually.
Will you be partaking of liquid refreshment at the end of the event?
1 or 3.
Well, I'll buy you number 2.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
And here's Jerry Marnie into the pits in the Aquati Sierra Cosworth. It'll be the last pit stop for this car, the number 18 car, handing over to Mark Hales. Just a little top up of oil there, just to check that nothing goes wrong on the last stint. Checking the brake pads. Yes, they're going to do another brake pad change. Brakes have been a problem in this 24-hour race, and there's another change of pads there. The car coming down off the hydraulic jacks. Hands go up, and from the car we can see there the signal being given to go back out onto the circuit with Mark Hales at the wheel. This car in 3rd place still. Sierra Cosworth actually filling the first 3 places, 1st, 2nd and 3rd. And back onto the track then, Mark Hales goes on his way, and as he goes on his way, we asked the race leader, Rob Gravitt, how stressful he found the race.
No, I found it quite tiring in actual fact, very mentally stressing, especially the first run, the first 2.5, 3 hours. The race started in the wet, and it was virtually sprint racing, but sprint racing off the curbs. So very stressful. I thought the first part of it. The night drive was easy. I found that the easiest of all of it. And of course the last drive, when we had problems with the car, that was a problem as well. That was quite stressful. I was absolutely, I was ready for bed at the end of the race.
Did you have any problems during the night?
We actually had a problem with the lights. We ran spotlights on the car, and we were very lucky. As we went under the bridge, the engine cut and we lost the battery, probably because we was taking too much out of the battery, and the alternator couldn't compensate. So I free-wheeled for nearly half a lap into the pits, and we did an untimed pit stop and changed the battery.
So Rob Gravitt there, even the leaders have had problems during the course of this race. And now in the VW pit, there's Vic Lee. Now Vic, talk us through a lap of the Snetterton circuit.
Right, here we are leaving the pits now. We're approaching Riches. We're not up to racing speeds yet. We're just approaching Sear Corner, which is normally a 3rd gear corner. We accelerate hard as we exit the corner now. We'll now be accelerating through 3rd, 4th. We'll get into 5th later on down this straight, where we'll probably be reaching somewhere around about 110 mile an hour in the Gulf. We then come up to a left-hander, which is the S's. We brake quite hard. We're into fourth, third here. Third for the right-hander at the S's. We accelerate hard now under the Dunlop Bridge into fourth, through the bomb hole, absolutely flat in fourth. We're now accelerating up into Coram. Coram is absolutely flat in fourth, still accelerating now. As we approach Russell, in a sprint race we can normally get into fifth here. We just lift and flat again on through Russell, where we're absolutely flat on the floor, doing about 90 through Russell, I would think, and then we're down the main pitch straight, where we would possibly reach somewhere just on 100 mile an hour before we change down into third for Riches.
Right. Are you ready, Paul? Right. Carol, we've got you where we wanted you. You're in charge of a lot of men. You've been running them for 24 hours. How do you feel?
I'd have to think of something ladylike to say about that, and I really can't. I'm very tired. Very tired.
You should ask who's out to the men feel.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
She's been touching enough of us.
You were always willing to get hold of the wheel nuts when they came in.
They were a bit hot sometimes, I must admit. Juggling hot wheel nuts at 5 o'clock in the morning is not really my idea of a lot of fun.
Anyway, after having had so many problems, you're still looking fit. You're still surviving at the 23rd hour. How do you think you're going to finish in the 24th hour?
Well, we've made it onto the master scoreboard, I'm pleased to say. We seem to be creeping up the odd place. So we'll be in there at the finish, and grateful to have a finish. Reasonable.
All right, and we'll see you again next year?
Definitely.
This is not the way that we know it, Jim.
He likes to have Klingons on the starboard bow sung to him at 6:30 in the morning.
No answer to that, Vic?
He can't even remember it.
I remember something coming over the radio, and then I switched it off.
Oh, Vic, I can now ask you at this moment. You had a slight moment last night. Your front bumper managed to catch the back end of a Honda, was it? When we were in the helicopter watching you?
No, I think you've got that all wrong. I was coming through the bomb hole and I was really going for it, and this Honda was doing a 3-point turn, and he actually reversed into the front of my car. So we're going to go and see him later on, because obviously, you know, it's done quite a bit of damage. So no, we never touched him.
Oh,
no,
so
no.
What we saw from the helicopter directly above was a mirror image or something?
Yeah, well, when you're looking down on something, it's actually reversed, you see. So, you know, he did back into us.
We'll make a note of that on the film.
If you could, because, you know, I don't want to get this reputation that I keep hitting people. What you must remember is people hit me.
OK, Vic, thank you.
Here in the aquatic pit, there's Rob Gravitt looking at the tyres, a little bit concerned obviously about how much the tyres are wearing. The team obviously expecting the car. Here it is, Graham Hathaway coming into the pits for the last scheduled pit stop, handing the car over to Rob Gravitt. Final checks being made on the car to make sure it lasts these last telling minutes. These are the ones that are stressful for the team, where all the weeks of preparation are finally coming together. There, the wheel nuts being tightened, the team manager holding Rob. A few seconds spent here could be so vital. There he goes, keeping the speed down in the pit lane.
You're doing fantastically well for the first endurance race.
Yeah, well, it's not just me, Mark as well. We're working together well. It's going to be really interesting, because we're all so close together, the first 4 cars, that it's really going to be a blinder, I think.
Well, I've put money on a quality one too.
Well, I won't. I'd like to think that, but too early. We'll see.
Oh.
It'd be nice to see it that way.
It'd be great.
Into the last hour of the race then, and And the situation is that Rob Gravitt and Graham Hathaway are in the lead in their Sierra Cosworth, just ahead of the Mike Smith and Lionel Abbott Sierra Cosworth, themselves just ahead of the Jerry Marnie and Mark Hale's Sierra Cosworth. These three cars separated by just a lap, with about half an hour or so still to go on the race. A bit further back, Patrick Watts in the Carl Jones Duckham's sponsored Escort RS Turbo is going all out, and he's just flown past this Sierra there, trying to catch up with the Ricky Fagan Mercedes 190. Carl Jones sadly was thwarted right at the end as the car with worn tyres and a blown turbo didn't quite make it to the finish to overtake the Mercedes. Here though is Mark Hales at the wheel of the currently third place car, pressing on past James Kay's Honda Civic into Russell once again. The traffic very heavy as there's been remarkably few retirements in this year's Willhire. Up the pit straight they go, lapping the back markers, close in behind the Rob Gravitt car there. And who's this in the pits? It's a brake problem for somebody. It's Mike Smith, it's the second place car. Mike Smith and Lionel Abbott into the pits with a broken front hub on the Mobile One sponsored car. There's Mike Smith. He must be very disappointed. They won the race last year. Fortune not on their side this year though. There's Lionel Abbott going back out into the race, but he's lost 6 laps in the pits, having that hub replaced. That's very bad luck indeed for the Mobile One team. So that's elevated Mark Hales here in the Aquati car to second place. So now the Aquati cars first and second, and running first and second on the road. That's Rob Gravitt just ahead in the number 12 car, out of the bomb hole on another lap. And the fairy tale finish for the Aquati cars looks as though it's going to be on. We're approaching 4 o'clock now. The end of the race is in sight. There's John Nicol with Roger Williams, the man who really has made the Willhire 24-hour race what it is. The cars pressing on through Russell Curve, still right on the limit, although there really is just a few minutes to go before the checkered flag comes out. And as they come up to the checkered flag, it's going to be Rob Gravitt winning the 1987 Willhire 24-hour race. In second place, Jerry Marnie in the number 18 Aquati Sierra Cosworth. Third, Mike Smith and Lionel Abbott in their Sierra Cosworth. In fourth place, and winning Class B, car number 30, the BMW M3 of Bob Sands. Fourth, number 41, Ricky Fagan, Phil Dowsett in the Mercedes 190. In sixth place, number 32, Carl Jones and Patrick Watts in the Escort RS Turbo. Seventh, Lawrence Bristow and Tim Harvey in their Sierra Cosworth. In eighth place, the Chris Sanders Starion Turbo. Ninth was John Morris in the leading Class C car, the VW Golf GTI. In 10th place, Keith Oda and Paul Chudecki in the Peugeot 205 GTI. 11th, Roger Williams in the Willhire sponsored Sierra Cosworth. 12th, Alan Minshaw and John Brindley in number 80, their VW Golf GTI. 13th, Tony Lanfranchi, John Cleland and Vince Woodman in the Opel Monza. 14th, Nick Bourne's Golf GTI. 15th, the Roger Eccles Mercedes. 16th, Terry Stone's Toyota Corolla. 17th, number 21, Bill Lathan's BMW. In 18th place, number 60, Alex Poston's Renault 5 Turbo. And in 19th place, Vic Lee, Jeremy Rossiter and Gary Isles at the wheel of the VW Golf GTI. Seen here receiving the award, the Helilink Determination Trophy for the best effort to finish. And what a well-deserved result that is for Vic, at least some reward for a very hard weekend's work. There's Jeremy Rossiter and Vic there receiving the award, Gary Isles in civvies. The team congratulating each other, and I'm sure there'll be congratulations to the team of mechanics at the end of the race. They'll be glad to get there. Here's Tony Lanfranchi, John Cleland and Vince Woodman to receive the GM Dealer Sport Vauxhall Opel Perpetual Trophy for the highest place Vauxhall Opel in the classification. And Tony Lanfranchi already easing down the liquid refreshment there. And Bill Cleland being brought in to congratulate John Cleland, his son. The General Motors Dealer Sport team, a very close-knit, a very nice, happy family relationship in there. Tony Lanfranchi, one of the characters of the sport. He's enjoying himself. Hello, Tony. And now stepping up to receive the award for Class D, Tony Dickinson, Joe Ward and Tim Reed, the drivers of the Suzuki Swift. And winning Class C, the VW Golf GTI of John Morris and Bob Meacham. Winners of Class B, the BMW M3 of Bob Sands, Steve McHale and Jess Cross. And now stepping up to receive the Breckland Lodge Motel Trophy for the best prepared car and also second overall in the classification, Jerry Marney and Mark Hales, and they're as pleased as anything about that. And here, the overall winners, Graham Hathaway receiving his garland. There's the garland for Rob Gravitt, and Phil Bullman as well receiving his garland. The champagne shower, and what a shower, what a good race that was for the Aquati team. Rob Gravitt's team, a very successful one in the 1987 season. And the jewel in the crown of that, the Willhire 24-hour race.